It's the Kink Consultant podcast, where we're turning up the heat on all things kink and dating, relationships, and pop culture. So close the door, plug in your headphones, and let's get down to it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Kink Consultant. I am joined by Luna Matatis, who is a sex and pleasure educator, who I have been following on social media for a while, but I had the pleasure of being a presenter on the same Dom Sub Dynamic Summit that she was at, and her class blew me away. And as an educator, she has a library of different classes and education that she offers, but this was the first one I took, and I immediately knew I needed Luna on the podcast with me. So welcome, Luna.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here.
Are you kidding? Thank you for coming. What was the name of your presentation?
Yeah, it was Kinky Dirty Talk.
So you had such ease with Kink Dirty Talk, and I was like, damn, where did she come out of? So Luna, how did you get started in this work?
I actually came in through a public health perspective. I'm based in Toronto, Canada. I was working in Eastern and Southern Africa and in Canada, and I was doing all kinds of things that were about like sexual wellness, but we weren't talking about pleasure, right? That was like the missing piece in the conversation. So many years later, I started teaching classes at local feminist sex positive shops in Toronto that had a focus on pleasure education. And immediately it was like, oh, here I am. I've landed in the place where those intersections actually come together. And we can't separate pleasure from feeling like we're caring about our health, like we have a holistic approach to our identities. So that's where I landed.
You have a global perspective on this then.
Yeah, because actually the conversations in Eastern and Southern Africa were the exact same. I mean, everyone was like, yeah, condoms, but how do I get him to go down on me? How do I get her to do this thing? You know, people wanted to know the how-to, which is wild. Because even though we have porn is very performative usually. And so there's like a missing connection with how do I interpret this into the reality of bodies do things that are beautiful and disgusting. And, you know, like how do we actually like bring it in?
I can't help but take away that it's an international problem that men aren't going down on women.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I teach Eat Pussy Like a Champ, and it's my most popular class.
Eat Pussy Like a Champ is your most popular class, and I'm assuming it's men taking the class?
I don't know anymore because I'm online mostly with it. People are buying it on demand. Sometimes, you know, maybe I can tell, but when I used to teach it in person, it would be exclusively women or somebody's partner that a woman dragged there.
Because when you tell me that, though, I'm like, if that's your most popular class, I'm wondering if, like many things, and we're going to talk about this today, confidence in skill is what's stopping us from doing it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
One of the other reasons I needed Luna here today was I have my own skill barriers that I want to work on, and I thought you might be the right person to have this one-on-one with. I'm going to cop to something. Luna, I suck at dirty talk. I can do kinky dirty talk. I can be a dom, I can be a sub. I can say things like, get on your knees and look at the floor. You know, like I know how to instruct, lead, guide. When it comes to sex, this is hard for me to even get out. Like my two things are, you feel so good inside me. I love how you're filling me up. I don't want to use those two every time. I want to inject some creativity here. I want diversity in my dirty talk.
We got this. We can do this. But it is really interesting that you find it so there's more flow within BDSM. And to me, that kind of makes sense. I mean, I'd love to hear what you think is the reason why. But BDSM has so much imagination built into it. So there's so much inspo. We're often pivoting to like a character or an expression or an archetype. And so it's like we can imbue that with a different language. But in day-to-day, in our day-to-day sex or non-BDSM sex, it feels like, are you stating the obvious? You know, like,
yes.
Like it's repetitive. It lacks like some kind of like erotic anchor in the moment. It's just kind of, it feels like just words, right?
And then I'm overthinking it too. So the reason I think I'm so much more natural during BDSM talk is a couple of things. I'm someone who jokingly but seriously says my sexuality was stunted because I was born kinky. I have a fetish, meaning I need spanking, punishment, discipline to be turned on. And I think I can be the disciplinarian or receive it. And I think that's why I'm so naturally good at the BDSM talk, the kinky talk. That is part of my sexuality. Then when it comes to quote unquote actual sex, that type of the intimacy between a couple, I struggle to know what to say that's going to make that other person feel turned on because of all the reasons you just explained. I feel like a fake in a way that I don't when I'm being dominant or submissive.
I love that you know that about yourself. Like, that was a journey.
Well, if I'm speaking to the expert, I'm like, I want to give her all of the information because I want to work on this.
Yes, yes. If we're thinking about regular dirty talk, sometimes what we say is not as important as how we say it. And so I do find I'm like you, I'm a switch, but I'm way more verbal when I'm in kinky kind of situations than I am in non-kinky situations. So one thing that I usually recommend to people, I teach 7 or 8 different styles of dirty talk in my Dirty Talk 101. And so the first one is almost sourcing from your environment. So it's called narration. So you would look around. So if your hand is on someone's penis, or someone's hand is like across your chest, or someone's hands are in your hair. So we're looking for what's happening and we're narrating what's happening. So we're going to either put a compliment or a desire on top of what's happening. So if someone's hand is on my chest, I might say, "Oh God, your hand feels so good across my chest," or "You look so good between my thighs," or "I can't wait until you come up from there and do something else." But we're kind of saying the hotness of the visual, and then we're pairing either a compliment or another sensory thing that's happening. So another example of that is I love going between the groin and the thigh, where I call it like the sweat catcher, but it's that like crevice where all the juices and everything falls in.
Yes.
And I'll stick my face in there and I'll inhale somebody, and then I'll say, "Oh, you smell so good." And so like pairing some of that sensual or sensual kind of stuff that's happening with a compliment is more impactful than just "you look so good" or "you're so hot" or things like that. Like, we want to get really specific about what's turning us on about that person's body. And if you know your person is very into being complimented for, let's say, their primalness or maybe their femininity or something about them that turns them on about themselves or about you. So it could just be even your horniness makes them horny. So communicating that with either what's happening in the moment or what your senses are taking in can help you have like a more realistic connection to what's happening.
That makes a ton of sense. And I don't want to skip over how fucking hot that smelling that area is. I would feel so seen, accepted, and desired if someone went to an area that I was that vulnerable and insecure about. I'm going to say it. And then if they said that, I think that would drive me over the edge immediately.
Yes.
So there's like a little bit of stepping outside your comfort zone to be brave enough to do it, say it. I'm having these like little light bulb moments of, wait, I'm so worried about being new and interesting, which there's a mix of that, right? But also when someone says to me, "Oh, you're so wet," that gets me every time.
Yes.
So it's a mix of simplicity and creativity that's like, I feel like I'm taking notes here and being like, okay.
You got this.
You
named it about that, like, it doesn't have to be super new. So that, what you just said about, "You're so wet." So we can say it, "You're so wet," like we can change pitch, but if we change cadence or pace and volume, it changes everything. So "You're so wet" is so different than "Oh, you're so wet," which not bad or worse, but it's different. If you whispered that close to someone's ear instead of from between their legs, that's also going to be different. If you're between their legs and you pop up and you make eye contact and say it, it's also going to be different. So same words, different locations, different pairing of intensity, and you don't have to remember a whole script about something.
You're right. You don't have to remember a whole script about something. I'm rapid fire with the questions, but how do you do it in such a way that it doesn't feel scripted?
I think part of that, 50% of that is self-judgment. It's that we think it sounds weird. We think it sounds over the top. If your partner giggles and you're like, "Oh, they're laughing at me." No, you've made them feel a little something, almost a little bit, maybe a little bit of discomfort because it's so hot, right? Like that's flattering if your partner giggles. And so we feel that we have to say the right thing, or if it doesn't land, then it says something about our sexual performance. I teach sexual confidence too, and sexually confident people, we don't care if we're good or bad at something. We care, like, are we getting curious and moving towards the momentum of more pleasure? So, oh, that didn't land for you, I got more. There's like constant creativity and sourcing. The other part is that we have to work up in practice with that. So it is going to feel awkward and weird the first time that you do it, or the first few times. So I would start with something where if you feel that your partner looking at you while you say it, or the eye contact is weird, either blindfold your partner or do it from a place where maybe you're buried in their neck, or you're coming around from behind them and you're saying things. So it gives you a little bit of, you're revealing slowly and you're not so on stage.
Yeah, it's like practicing lines as opposed to being the center of attention and all focus on you. It might make it easier if I did it that way.
And I would tap into even your sexting. So like, what does your partner call their genitals? What are kind of words that they say? Like, do they use more kind of affirming things, or are they more about tease, and picking up on some of those nuances that you can play with, or even asking them, what do you like to be called? What are words that turn you on? Certain words that for my body parts turn me off, or certain types of talk that turn me off. And so I'm going to tell someone up front, like, I'm not into this or this, but I love this word with like this intention.
All right, Kinkster, let's talk about pleasure. Not just mine, yours too. If you're enjoying this episode of the Kink Consultant, I need you to do me a little favor, and I promise it'll feel oh so good. Take a second and give this podcast a 5-star rating. Just imagine your finger sliding all over that 5th star, pressing down, giving it exactly the kind of attention it deserves. Yeah, that's it. And you know what happens when you do? I get all hot and bothered knowing you're out there, showing your appreciation. Plus, every time you leave a review, a naughty little brat somewhere gets that spanking they've been begging for. So be a good listener and tap that star, won't you? Thanks, love. Now let's get back to the fun. I totally feel that. And I'm a huge fan of having the conversation and making it obvious, because sometimes we don't pick up on, oh, my partner likes pussy over vagina. Or I grew up in Ireland. Sometimes people actually like the word cunt, Whereas in America, I think that turns people off a lot. That's been my experience. It's very degrading, which is its own kind of dirty talk, but not, it's good to know when to bring that in and when that's not the thing that's going to turn them on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And whether it's affirming of their horniness or arousal, it might be something that's affirming of gender, or affirming of like just their body in general. That can feel like a form of intimacy that you're creating through that verbal vessel, right? You're actually like giving them something through their words versus you're beautiful, you're sexy.
Which can get a little tiring or just so used, because I think for me, anything that is said outside of the bedroom or outside of the intimacy of a couple, it's not going to take it to the next level for me when I'm in an intimate mode. And as much as I want to be called beautiful as I get ready to go out on a dinner date, that isn't something that's going to take me over the edge when someone is between my legs.
Oh, that's a perfect way of thinking about it. Yeah.
Can you give me any tips for the next time? Because the truth is, I want to understand with my partner, maybe I've had the conversations. I know that he likes to call it his cock. I know that he likes it referred to as big and hard, but then I don't know how to take it beyond that.
Okay, let me ask you, how does that make you feel? Like, do you feel like you are going down on him in a way that's like you belong to his cock? Is there a surrender, or is there more about like a passion for sort of devouring his cock? Is there a vibe that kind of sets it off for you, or does it for you?
Okay, that's a great question. For me, one of the reasons I am struggling with this is because for me, I am so focused on my own fetish of wanting to be owned, the power exchange side of it. But in the interest of giving my partner who doesn't share my fetish an enjoyable experience, like we meet each other halfway, I want to be able to meet him in a way that he feels seen, right? So like when you ask what I feel, what I want is for him to feel seen, and I want to speak to him in a way that turns him on. I'm thinking about and feeling submissive in the moment, but that might not be what I want to talk about.
What vibes would like turn him on? Like what would do you know what he'd like to hear?
I think he likes a lot of praise and just excitement about me being there. And I can be very enthusiastic physically. It's the words. Because like, of course I'm excited to be there and giving pleasure, and we're having this moment together and it's hot as fuck. I struggle verbalizing that. What I'd say is, you have me so turned on, your cock is hot as fuck. Like, do you see where that's like not really hitting the note I want to hit?
But I think it's in the direction. I think you're close because, I'm so turned on could be, sucking you makes me so wet, right?
Yes.
Like
Okay.
happening. Yeah.
I love that. And I know this.
Yeah. It's different when it's like you're in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean like you're not telling me anything I don't know. It was just that I know one of the fundamentals is tell them how they're affecting your body, which is exactly what you just explained.
You can also talk about this like almost infinite desire. So I could be down here for hours. Like just like with my partner, I like when he kind of just leans in. And so I kind of think that he's gone to a lounge and then it's just me and his dick. And, and so I'll be like, you just go wherever you go. We're fine. And so, it doesn't have to be even like my dirty talk tends to be a mix of like super sultry, but then also like silly because silly is sexy. And it can kind of shake you up when you do feel you're like, oh, what do I need to say next? What do I need, say something funny. Because then that'll like relax you. And then you can think about like, okay, now I'm going to bring it back to like, I can't get enough of your taste. I love the way your pre comes on my lips and then, lick it off and show the verbal enthusiasm you already show.
Okay. And I totally get that silly is sexy because I'm silly with the people I'm most intimate with. Right? Yeah. But when you say something funny, I'm like, what do you mean? I immediately panic. I'm like, what do you mean say something funny?
That's a good insight because I have this too where I start to think about, okay, like what am I going to say? Or like, what am I going to, I got to say something or I have such a desire to express like the enthusiasm, but also when our arousal and it gets so high, we're often in a state where we might lose some of that verbalness. Might have like this sensory overload from sucking or from touching or from stroking or whatever it is. So you can even describe like something with your hand. And so if you're stroking and saying like, oh, I love like watching my hand go up and down, like feeling all of you, you're getting harder in my hand, like describing kind of what's happening. The silly part, I don't know, maybe it doesn't work for everybody, but I think there's some joy in, like I'll tell you my silly things, but I don't know how to describe how to be silly, but I would grab a penis. There's like one eye. So I'd be like, like, are you looking at me? Or like just like waving it around and being like, why are you so crazy today?
Physical comedy, literal physical comedy.
Physical. I'm like slapstick in bed. Who knew?
Again, that comes with a certain level of comfort of knowing what's going to work for you both. This is my interpretation, but when you share humor with someone, it's a gateway into sharing so much else.
It is. Yeah. And it's feeling like play is the antithesis to performance. And so I don't worry about, is this making him hard? Is this doing whatever? I'm so focused on the pleasure that I'm trying to channel through me. And that channel includes play.
Okay, so let's talk about flow. Then you're allowing that pleasure to flow through your body. How do you keep that flow going, like beginning to end?
There's things we can do inside the bedroom and things we can do outside the bedroom that kind of help us build up a fuller erotic cup. And so that we're not like digging as deep when we get to our partners. It's almost like we come in full and they get our overflow. That helps us build confidence, presence. We get more sexual satisfaction that way. But most people don't really either have time for that or they're not making time for that or they're not sure where to get their sources of inspo from. For me, I love recommending to my clients that they do build up that erotic imagination, exactly the place where dirty talk comes from. So doing things like looking into erotica. I've been masturbating to literotica.com since like 1995. If you're looking, go there or write your own erotica.
I'm a huge fan of that. I love creating scenarios in my head. I don't have the attention span to write the whole erotica, but like, oh man, what's happening up here? It's really fun to create your own imagination world of like what your hottest sexual idea is. And it's endless, boundless when it's in your head.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even the eroticism that happens in your life. So having a practice with your partner where you send flashbacks to each other. Here's what I was thinking of. Remember that moment that you did this thing, or I'm looking forward to the next time we do that thing. Like not letting the moment end when the sex ends, but carrying that energy with you.
Oh my gosh, I love that. It's sort of like a little memory from it that you can draw on and put back in. It's like that movie Inside Out,
That's my favorite movie. So many feelings.
That's the one thing I'm like, I wish that was around when I was a kid. That movie would have made a huge difference.
I wish I had that in school instead of
Yeah.
like algebra. Emotional intelligence would have helped me. Like,
I know, because they act like it's so hard to teach, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure that movie just advanced kids 5 years in that department.
exactly.
Okay. So with that visual in mind of like grabbing onto that memory, yeah, I love receiving a text that's about something that happened in the past because it's a shared experience that I get to remember.
That's it.
Yeah.
You get to connect kind of the two timelines of like the eroticism of the past and how it contributed to how you feel about each other now or what's going to happen next.
Okay, and then that's like the foreplay for the next time. Oh my gosh, we're like saving a little bit, moving it forward. These are all really helpful for me because, as I said, not all of my partners are fetishists with the same fetish. And if I want to connect with them, it's really important to me to meet them where they're at so that because they're meeting me where I'm at with my spanking desire, my discipline desire, and I want to give that back in like equal amounts. So like this is really helpful and it's a good reminder. And I think a lot of kinky people fall into this. So I'm copying to this for myself and on behalf of some others. Sometimes we're so focused on having our kinky desires met and we meet someone who's willing to do it that we can, and I'm guilty of this, forget to meet their vanilla needs too, or just non-kinky.
I totally agree. And then it doesn't feel even as mutually satisfying. It feels like there's a disconnect because there's a pour that's happening, like one person is pouring more into the other person's eroticism, and it's great to receive. So if you find that you can't do that in one session, then I like to have like do me dates. So do me that, we get to do me on Saturday and maybe on Sunday it's a do you date and we get to do everything you want to do. Let's like focus on you.
Oh, I love that. Really helpful because it also just, as much as we might fight against structure or scheduling, sometimes that's the way we keep the momentum going. We keep things going. Yeah.
I agree. And it gives you something to look forward to. It gives you something to groom for. It gives you something to get excited about.
Yeah. Oh, I like that because I like a little prep work. Just a little bit of like, okay, what's going to happen? Shaving the legs, getting in the mental headspace of what's about to happen. It excites me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Laying out the sex blankets,
Yes. It's sort of like we're about to have a good time.
That's it. So why not have that? I mean, dopamine's highest before the reward. So let's like build up that like area of dopamine possibility with this flashback flirting.
It's that same tension you get as you climb a roller coaster. It's like, oh my God, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And when it comes, it's fun. But that tension is partly what you remember, that fear. This is my fetish and kink coming in. I enjoy being a little scared, right? So these are the things I'm aware of when I'm trying to come up with dirty talk. I'm like, that person probably isn't going to enjoy being scared as much, or might not, is my point. So I want to make sure I'm speaking the language.
Yeah. And I like how you still carry that part of yourself into non-kinky relationships. It's just like a little bit more muted while you're engaging and making space for someone else's eroticism. Because that's the sauce. That's where you get fed by and inspired by someone else's erotic energy because now you have space.
You blew my mind with how right that is. That is the sauce. That's the special mix. Really takes it to the next level.
Oh, I'm glad you like that. Yeah.
Oh,
I think there's like such a misconception about that we have sex with other people to like get sex from them, but we're like giving too. My partner and I call it like a circuit. It's like we're giving and receiving at the same time.
I always think of it like a circuit. It might not be the words I'm using, but it's bringing up past things of, I think that is some of the knock-on effect. I was raised in Catholic Ireland. I am not sure how religion may have played a part in your life, but the idea that my virginity was my job to protect and a man's job was to come get it lends itself to what you just described, this idea of we're in it to get sex, or it's not an idea of pleasure, receiving, giving. It's more like, oh, protect, give away. It's more transactional. It only leads to it being more transactional. There was no room for pleasure.
Absolutely. And we just kind of become objects for each other's transactions. Yeah, I grew up Catholic too. And there's so much focus on like having sort of gender roles around things. And so men are like the givers and women are the receivers. And so if you find that you've been conditioned in a way way that it feels hard to receive, like it's not your fault. It's like, if you're like, no, I need to give, because I've had to work on being comfortable receiving and like really leaning into that and seeing like the worth and the value and the joy of someone being able to give to someone who can receive.
Was there anything specific you did that helped you learn to receive better or more comfortably?
Yeah, I had to really own my yeses. So I was owning my no's. I was like, nope, don't like this, don't like this, don't like that. But I wasn't like, no, I need you to do this thing. Or like, this is my favorite part of sex. I teach like 30 different types of topics on my site, but my favorite thing is kissing. So if there's not good, deep, long kissing, I'm so not interested. And before, I used to override, almost betray myself for that and kind of lean into, okay, there's good things, there's these things, but it's going to feel like you're being a little selfish, but actually we're so far in the other direction. Like, it's not selfish.
Yeah, it means that you care about putting time into the relationship to get to have the intimacy you want, and that's going to keep you in further or keep you in it longer. That's what I always say about boundaries too. You're sharing a boundary because you want that person in your life, and they're able to stay in your life if they're not crossing your boundaries. It's so loving and intimate to share.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, that's the perfect analogy to it. Yeah, it's very much about like leaning into deep mutual pleasure. And so if someone doesn't know what your favorite parts are, they can't even have the confidence to give you what's actually good for you. And so really learning those things, owning it, having like I ask my younger crowds when I'm teaching consent to think about like redefining sex. And so maybe sex isn't penetration for you. Maybe it's not even nudity for you. But what would it be like if you were picking your ideal sex menu? Like, how long would you do this thing? What are the things that you would do the most? When would sex end? Like, does it have to end when the penis ends? No.
Yeah. So, no, that's like a really good point. You were finding empowerment in your yeses. That kind of helped you the most. Or at least was the starter for you.
Absolutely. And then leaning into the discomfort of that you feel kind of selfish. Just do it anyways. Let someone tell you you're selfish. They're going to be like, wow, like you know how to like be present. You know how to like be in the pleasure I was giving you. Oh, it was so good to like surf your pleasure when you were just like so in the moment. That's the feeling you're going to give your partners.
As a woman, I always am so wary of, am I going to be perceived as selfish? And then you just said, let them tell you. Like, don't be worried about whether or not you're selfish. They'll tell you if that's happening. And chances are they're not going to say that. Okay.
And they're probably not experiencing that. Like, if you have a partner who's experiencing that, they don't care about your pleasure.
I know you have a library of courses, but can we talk about kissing?
Yes. It's funny. That's the one class I don't teach.
Oh, okay. Well, now you need to.
Now I need to, yeah. People come to me all the time for how do I kiss better? And the funny thing with like a lot of sexual techniques is like, yeah, I can teach you, okay, do this with your mouth or do this or communicate this. A lot of it is also orienting towards that intuitive feeling and flow with another person. And so learning kind of that rhythm of like, okay, I tried this and like this works, or they're opening their mouth a little bit too much. Folks don't ever want to tell their partners, hey, can you do this thing a different way? But actually, that's part of what our conversation just was, is that we have to learn these things. Like sex is a skill in any form. So we don't know how to do that, especially if you're with a new partner. It's very rare. People are like just like great kissers together or great sexers together, like right off the bat. Like you learn each other's bodies. So I usually teach that kind of like, well, how do you learn, whether it's for spanking, whether it's for kissing, whether it's for whatever, how do you learn that intuitive connection, presence, kind of like mindful of what's happening in the moment versus what I think I should do.
Okay, so listen with your mouth. My mouth should be paying attention to theirs and vice versa. And that's the gateway to good sex conversation. I think being able to have a conversation, even at the kissing level of, oh, I like it when your tongue just barely touches mine. Like, don't go so far in. Is that fair feedback to give?
Absolutely. We tune into these slight changes in someone's body. So if I was putting my tongue inside someone's mouth and they froze or they pulled back slightly, or their hands change, we're going to have an automatic response to what we like and what we don't like. And some people are obvious and some people are not. So I would check in. I'd be like, oh, a little less tongue. So we can also invite feedback. Do you want more? Do you want it wetter? Do you want this? Like just even binary kinds of questions, faster, slower, that can really help guide whatever's happening.
I like the binary questions because if you're just given like this option of nebulous, endless answers, I'm in my brain. Give me A or B and I'll choose A or B.
That's it. Yeah. That's
Okay,
it.
Luna, we're at time. Is there anything else you want to discuss? This has been so fun.
I know this has been so great. Thank you for this conversation. I always want to leave people on like you mentioned, my body positive kind of work. So I'd love to leave people with just a reminder that your body is a vessel. If you don't like what it looks like, you don't like how it performs, you don't like what it does, that's okay. But don't let that stop you from doing what you want to do, because that's going to be, a relationship to our body that we have to come into over and over and over again. So whether we're, going through postpartum or changes in medication or menopause or aging, we're going to have to like come into relationship with our pleasure and our body. And I just meet so many people that are waiting until whatever change they want to make in their body, or, whether that's even possible or not. And there's this smallness that's happening, whereas things like kink and sex are so expansive. So take up more space, find ways to do that even in non-sexual things. So whether you're like dancing or creating or whatever, but I think that's what feeds our erotic creativity. It can't thrive when we're like strangling it.
So well said, because kink is expansive and we need to lean into that and make the most of this beautiful space we get to exist in. What advice do you like to give the majority of your couples or people who come to you?
This really is about learning. So we think that because it's sex or kink that we should just like know how to do it. So take the classes, do the reading, read the books. Like, it sounds like you have to be a kink nerd about it, but you kind of do, because you get a lot of inspiration from different frameworks or perspectives on what you're doing, in addition to technique to make you feel confident.
Thank you. I agree. There are resources out there. Use them, because that's what's going to make you better. It's the conversations, but it's also educating yourself and the resources. You have given me so many light bulb moments. Seriously.
I'm
thank
so
you.
glad. Oh, you're great. Thank you for that. You're a great conversationalist, like great questions. Thank you.
If you want to go on a journey with Luna, you can follow her on Instagram at Luna Matatas. That's LUNAMATATAS. And you'll find that in the show notes. She's on Twitter, also as Luna Matatas. She's at lunamatatas.com. So definitely go check her out, and the endless library of amazing educational courses in sex and pleasure. Luna, thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who might find it interesting. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, feel free to reach out. Email info@thekink-consultant.com. Until next time, keep on kinking on.